Jamie and Sarah here, sitting down with Katie DeBoer, the author of Boundless Light. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I know. I'm so excited that we had to kind of rearrange the space and welcome somebody else into our small little chamber here.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
You know what? It is a space. We have soundproofing on the walls. We are legit,
Yes.
right?
We got the microphones. We even have a third one. I'm impressed.
I know. I was able to find that and able to rig up the technology. So maybe we will have more visitors in our future.
I love it.
We are excited to have our first author in the house. So we want to kind of dig into the book, dig into what it takes to write a book. We're going to keep it no spoilers or no big spoilers because clearly we have to talk about the book. But for anybody who hasn't read the book yet, we want to give them a taste and really draw them in. And then I think we're going to stick around and get some spoilers out of you. But we'll save that for our cover-to-cover episode.
Yep. Okay, so we want to know, tell us about yourself. You wear a ton of hats. If you listen to our TLDR, you have a lot of things on your plate. So tell us a little bit about you.
First and foremost, I'm an imperfect person saved by Jesus Christ. So that's something that I am trying to follow God as good as I can. I'm a mom and a wife, 3 kids, homeschool. I do hire someone to help me out for the homeschooling. So my husband and I have a small business. I'm a licensed builder, licensed realtor. I'm also a local public official at Kent County in Michigan.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And so we were wondering, how do you find time for all of that? And how do you keep your priorities straight?
So there's some things, that I just don't do that a lot of women do. We don't do a ton of sports with the kids. We try to keep it family time in the evening so that we prioritize that. It's just a juggling game, right? We're all there. We're all just trying to figure it out. So when we're doing the best we can, I pray a lot. I cry a lot. But I think that's kind of just the phase of life that a lot of women are in.
So I think you told me that you actually started writing this book like more than a decade ago. Tell me about that, because here we are, it finally published. How did this all come about?
So it came about mostly when I was studying chemistry and physics. I went to school initially into chemistry, and then I changed into social work, and then I went back to chemistry again. But yeah, it's 2 extremes. But I was writing the story in my early 20s, kind of at school the second time for chemistry. And I just love physics. I love chemistry. I love hard science and challenging equations and all of the fun stuff that goes along with it. And I remember learning that the electromagnetic spectrum, which is light, is a continuum. And only a small portion of that electromagnetic spectrum is visible light. But all of it, even if it's invisible, is light. It's considered light. And so I just thought that was an amazing analogy for life. And I just kind of had this story inside of me where this light-powered cells, and I've always been kind of a sci-fi freak and loved superhero movies and, all the fun, silly things that goes along with that, comic books. So I decided to write this story, and I started it in my early 20s, and I had dabbled in it, I'm almost 40 now, but for the last 16 years, and I picked it up again this past November.
Okay.
I was recovering from pretty significant back surgery, and I needed a fun brain project that I could do, something that I really enjoyed doing. And so I picked it up again, and I couldn't stop doing it.
That's awesome. I feel like I'm going to get a chemistry lesson just in this episode.
I know. The science, you're saying that, and we're just laughing because science was neither of our fortes.
Right. No, absolutely not. And so reading this book, I was like, wow, I am getting some science knowledge that I did not even know. I probably learned it existed and then took the test and then forgot that it existed. So yes.
A lot of us do that.
Well, and you do reference a couple equations in the book, and even the book is broken up into several parts, and those are labeled very science-y. You're learning a new term each time. So how did those actually like relate to the book itself?
Sure. So the first part is called spectrum, and that's considered the electromagnetic spectrum. So part one is kind of the world building. It's a lot there. And you're getting all the different points of the spectrum. And some of it is stuff that you don't necessarily maybe even understand or see right away, or how it's going to play out in the long run. And so I liked that idea for part one because it's a lot there where you're not quite sure how it's all going to work together. And then for part two, I believe it's amplitude. So amplitude is, like the height of the wave, from the equilibrium. So that one is, we finally figured out what's going on with this book. Now we're going to heighten it, right? Now we're going to amplify it. And then the next one is wavelength. And wavelength is like kind of setting the pace. And that's the one where you have that other character that comes into play that's pretty significant in figuring out the problem. So that seemed to fit there. And then you have the frequency, which is how many waves per cycle. And it's bam, 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 bam.
I just literally, if I could
started
put
to make sense.
an emoji on this, it would be the mind blown. Like, wow, I just learned something. And all of those like waves that are in there, they weren't there just for like visual effects. They actually meant something. And so, yeah, mind blown.
They did mean something. Yeah. And the Boundless Light, the name of it is light is a continuum, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm using different light terms to try to explain the story. And then the last one, obviously, is visible light, where you kind of see the hope and the redemption that you see in visible light.
All right. I do want to know, is there any like life experiences, any past experiences that you've gone through that kind of shaped how you wrote this book, kind of storyline, any of that of your personal experiences?
Sure. So it's very obvious in my book. The initial letter is to every reader. And it's basically saying that God pulled me out of darkness and brought me into light. So when I was in high school, I went through some pretty traumatic experiences. And one of the poems that's in there is by a character who's dealing with extreme hardship. And that was a poem I had written myself in my own journal. And so I pretty much followed a lot of that spiritual battle in my own life of redemption and of trying to figure out this darkness. And for me, I am someone that I don't want to run away from the darkness because there's so much there that helps you see the light. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, my book is a Christian book. There's a lot of very spiritual, Christian themes, even Bible verses, but it also has a lot of swearing. It has some pretty gruesome, violence in it. I don't want to avoid that because honestly, I think it takes away from seeing the light. So that is a lot of my life as well. I mean, I've gone through some significant trials. And, a lot of people say now, how do you do all these things in life? Well, I kind of figured out what's most important and who is God and who does he want me to be. And so I think that has helped me in my life to be able to see that light and to work towards that in a sense.
Well, and I think the journal entry that you're talking about is that I'm too hungry to eat, too tired to sleep, too broken to break, too angry to hate, too sad to cry, too dead to die, I am nothing. That is heavy.
It's heavy. Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're right, and that there are so many people that have gone through hard things.
Yeah.
And maybe not to that depth, but we've all been there. And so I love that you share that that's a personal thing, that you actually wrote that in your journal, and now you can put it out there for other people to relate with and to grow from. That's beautiful. I liked that.
I did too. That's really, really powerful. Like you said, everyone's been through something.
Right. And, struggling through that, right? I mean, we've all had our trials. We've all had our hardships. And sometimes we want to avoid them. And sometimes we don't even want to acknowledge that they exist. But when we wrestle through it and we wrestle with God, and in a sense, I have a hip and it hurts all the time. And I think of Jacob wrestling with God. And there's just something there that when we acknowledge it, when we share it, when we see it, when we know how hard it broke us, then there's something greater than that. There's redemption.
Well, and there's so much to be said about sharing and doing life with other people. And when you're hiding that and burying that, you're not being honest with yourself. I mean, even our anxious generation, all of the tips said, do this together, make these decisions, have these conversations. And that goes for so many areas of our life. I agree.
And I think it's really cool because what I'm hearing you say is in this book, you're taking your hardships and sharing with others in hope that they too can see the light of what, God can do for you.
Exactly. And that's something too. I started writing this when I was, 23, and I'm near 40 now. It's taken me a long time to get there. And it's really, in a sense, like my own personal journey. Like I was not able to finish this book when I was 23. I had to go through the trial. I had to hurt and I had to heal. So it's fitting now that this is when I can finish up the book.
I'm going to guess there were a lot of changes when you picked the book back up.
Yes.
From 22-year-old Katie to late 30s Katie.
Yes.
I can feel that and I can sense that. And I think it definitely benefited Andy's journey to go through your journey.
I would say so too. I'm very much similar to Andy's personality, I would say, in the book. But there's a couple other characters that wouldn't have been as developed or even been in it that we see later on unless I had experienced life, right? I mean, when you're 22, 23, you're just trying to figure out a few things in life and not screw up too much. But when you really experience things and go through those trials and meet other people, there's a whole lot more that you can add to the diversity of the ensemble in the book.
So we want to ask about the publishing process because we know nothing about it. We admitted in our last episode that neither of us has any aspirations of writing or publishing a book. But I am very curious as to what that looks like. You self-published.
I did.
Break it down for us.
I was looking at trying to figure out if I wanted to self-publish or if I wanted to find a publisher. And for me, I was about easy access. I'm busy. I've got other things going on. So if there's a way I can, kind of slap it together and get it done, then that was the easiest route for me. Looking back at that, I'm glad I did it. I would say I have a lot of challenges now just trying to market the book. And how do I get that out to people? Like, I want to share the story. I wrote it to be read, not really to make money off of it. So how do I get this word out? And maybe that route is in the future going through a publisher to help me just get it out to the public. I'm not sure, because it's tricky to try to, you publish a book, you throw it out there, and then what, right?
I think
I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next.
Yeah. I think you even reaching out to Jamie to even be here with us. I mean, that shows that you stand behind this book too. And so being I really want to get it out there, not just to be profitable. That's ultimately the end game, but just to hear your story is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's something that we need to hear. Redemption is real. So let's pursue that and not just stay stuck in the darkness.
Okay. Is there a sequel? Are you working on something else? Or you were we just got this one done, Jamie. We're done.
I always love to have a project in my hands. So I've actually trying to figure out if I want to do a sequel right away or if I want to do something that's more scientific. I'm started working on thermodynamics. I love thermodynamics. I think there's so many there's 4 laws of thermodynamics. And there's so many real life applications, in our own life, of how we can live a thermodynamic life in a sense. So thermodynamics is a lot about order and chaos. And it's a lot about work and heat and basically being efficient and systems, how are systems efficient? And if we apply those principles to our own life as people, I think it's far more self-help application than most people realize.
Is there a part of this that you feel was really, you said it was challenging? And is there other parts of it in there that you would feel were super rewarding? like to be finished. Yes, it's done. You can hold the book in your hand, but any other parts that you were like, to those aspiring authors, like what else is out there? Like what else makes you feel rewarded?
To other authors, I would say just do it. Tell your story. A lot of people have stories to share, and maybe they're not ready quite yet to share it, but do it. And because there's something that first off is good for you to work through that process and to even like see a journey and use that in your own life to heal from it. And then you never know what could come of your story, how it could help someone and how it could just enable them to heal from their own journey.
Would you say that the self-publishing route was simple? Maybe not easy, but like a clear path to take?
Definitely. For someone like you and I, who are a lot more tech savvy, it was very easy to do. You have to, create your own cover, which I did. I didn't pay for anyone to do it for me. You have to figure out, different softwares to use for book publishing and stuff like that. So it was very easy access for me to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That takes a little, that was kind of how it was when we were starting a podcast. And it's the idea of it is daunting at times. And it's like, well, how do you do that? And do you need to take a course? Do you need to find a buddy who has one that can set you up with something? So hearing that it's simple and straightforward, like that you can figure it out. Like if you have the determination to sit down and write 200 pages, like I feel like you should be able to figure out the process for this, whether or not that's with a publisher or not. But that's fun.
I'm curious, when you read, what kind of books do you pick up?
Nonfiction. I'm actually not a huge fiction person. I will do the occasional sci-fi or fantasy, but it's mostly scientific books.
A favorite author?
Probably for fiction, and nonfiction. I really like C.S. Lewis. I'm doing a lot of C.S. Lewis again. That's probably most of it. And then other like nonfiction. I really like Jordan Peterson, The Psychologist. He's got a couple books I've read.
That's dry.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. I got to do audiobooks on those. Yes. That's a long read. But I love learning stuff from people like that. He's been on a lot of podcasts too, so I like watching those clips because he can dumb it down for the rest of us.
Take it down to simple terms, please. Mm-hmm. Which is like what I'm excited for our full episode cover to cover, for her to kind of break some of this down for people like me.
Well, and I think that we can go into the concept of this book because I loved the concept of this book. You're talking about basically solar powered people, which is the dumbed down version of this. But can you kind of explain what O cells are or what the O division is? Give us the synopsis, because we already read the back of the book, but for people just jumping into this episode, let's hear it from the author.
Okay, so O cells are basically fictional.
Are they, though? Are they?
Are they?
Okay.
They're fictional. They're basically powered by the sun. So they're like solar cells, but they're microscopic nano type of technology that is within human bodies, or a few human bodies in our story. So it's based on scientific principles, though. So I remember I explained it to my dad, and he was talking about, I love the O rays. I got to research that. And I'm like, Dad, that doesn't exist. I just say it's below the infrared spectrum, it's not really real. So I really like, and I kind of pride myself in the reader sometimes not understanding where does the science end and the science fiction begins. But basically they're nanotechnology, minor or teeny tiny solar cells inside of the human body that can go through the skin and that can power electrical field throughout the body, powering, all of the different biochemical reactions in your body.
Making them basically superheroes, super strength, because it was like 10 times strength.
Yes.
Human
very fictional.
Yes. But being able to carry heavy things. The one that I loved was reading books really fast.
Yeah.
It was like, I picked up a book at the airport and read it in 15 minutes. And I was like, that's the power I want right there. We would be flying through these episodes.
I think every mom needs these O cells. It's like, I mean, I'm sure when you were writing this, you were like, yes, if only I could truly have these O cells to generate all the power that I need just to get through this.
Sure. Yeah, that would be nice. What would you do with these O cells? Sure. Like I would go anywhere way quicker, right? I could do anything faster than I do today. So that would be nice.
I loved the concept. I know in the beginning of the book, we talk about how they're using it for bad. I mean, this is going to be a light versus dark, good versus evil book. But did you watch or use Minority Report as any basis to this? Because that's kind of what... There's like an offshoot of this. Like, it's not the plot line. I'm not saying that like you completely stole this or like that's what this is, but it triggered that. And so I could see this movie playing out in my head while reading this book. I was watching a movie in my head and it felt very realistic. Maybe it wasn't Tom Cruise or whoever's, is it Tom Cruise? I feel like it's Tom Cruise in that movie. But I could totally see this playing out. They were trying to preemptively get the bad guys using these superhumans, which I found it very fascinating. Sarah has never read sci-fi. And
First one ever. And it's okay. And Jamie's pushed me too, so it's great.
She was a little lost in the sauce, and I was like, but no, it's like this. And like the concept is great. They're solar powered people. Like, can you imagine just being able to go outside and recharge? That sounds cool to me. I feel like I need that breath of fresh air sometimes.
Yes. I mean, sometimes I'm like, can you just plug me up, put some energy in me? And yes, the sun in some ways does give us a little bit of energy, but nothing like what in my mind envisioned that this gave them. So that would be pretty fun, pretty cool.
I would love to have them.
Speaking of movies, if you were to cast a movie, who would you put in different characters? That's a big one, right?
I don't know.
That's tough.
I have not thought through that question. I always saw Denzel as Gregor.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I love Blue Bloods. Have you ever seen that movie or that show?
I haven't watched that one.
There's a character there at the end, and he's a Hispanic male, and he would be great for Hector. Yeah. But I don't know about Andy. I'm not sure. Someone that's kind of badass, I would think.
A little G.I. Jane-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, that's hard.
I know.
Because I feel like you have to find like the perfect kind of like an indie actor, like pull somebody out to be your Andy and be the star.
Yeah, someone new.
Yep.
That's kind of fun.
I could picture, I don't know. There's got to be somebody for Eric. Mm-hmm. Got to be one of those actors that you like love to hate.
On your question on Minority Report, no, I didn't use Minority Report. It was mostly all stuff I had in my own head. I don't know if I've seen it, but.
So that one is way far out there for sci-fi, and it is talking like there's beings that are like predicting the future, and they use their visions to go and basically sign the warrant to go and arrest these people. So in yours, they're using AI and they're calculating who the scumbags are and just taking them out. And so that immediately brought me back to that, because that movie was early 2000s, maybe right around the time that you were starting to write this. But the fact that it was AI, that felt creepy and too close to home for me, where it's like, they could actually start doing that. And that's the thing about sci-fi, is that what you were saying, where the science meets science fiction. And it's like, oh, well, AI could potentially do that. Mm-hmm. And like that could be something. And so we joke about like, well, maybe that technology doesn't exist. Well, maybe it does. Maybe there is a DOD department that's working on how to predict criminals.
I mean, you wrote a lot of stories. I'm sure there's a lot the government hides from us that we have no idea about. Mm-hmm. So, yes. I guess I want to ask, like, is there a particular scene or moment that you feel like most represents the book or more representative of the book?
That's a good question. I would say some of the more emotionally charged ones definitely hit more personally. So when Clarissa's writing that poem, and then when she, receives the light, and when she has hope again and faith again. And then I don't want to spoil it, but some of the ending stuff and some of the stuff with Andy at the very end as well.
We can come back to that.
Yes,
We'll
we
come
will.
back to that for the cover to cover episode for sure.
Okay, so really overall, what do you want readers to take away from your book?
Redemption is real and God loves you.
Simple. How did it feel writing faith into this story? Because it is a big part of the book, and we've kind of touched on this before, but why was that so important? Because good versus evil exists in all genres, but like this was very specific and very noteworthy. How as an author, did it feel writing these moments in?
I can't do it another way because God did pick me out from the darkness and brought me into his light. So if I'm going to be authentic as an author and genuine in my story, it has to be infused there because that's what he did in my life. So I don't think I could write this book a different way. It's just who I am.
That's beautiful.
It is. That is. It's beautiful.
I love that. I think that's great because I have more questions that I want to ask that are like digging into the book. So
Same.
I hope that our listeners, your readers and listeners, it's okay. I hope that you've gotten a lot out of this and that this has kind of sparked your interest in this book because there's a lot more to it. There's clearly the military aspect. It is a thriller. Like there's action happening and it is very fast paced. And you want to keep reading to find out what happens. So there's a lot in here to sell this book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you said, I believe that there's an audiobook also.
Coming.
Okay, great.
I've got to record it yet this summer.
Awesome. So then that will be coming out this summer or fall.
End of summer, yep.
Okay, awesome. So
She's figuring it out. I love that.
I love that you just figure it out and you do it.
My poor husband.
Behind every, strong husband is an even stronger wife.
This is very true. All right. Well, we are going to sign off at that, and then people can tune in next week for our cover-to-cover discussion, and we're going to bring Katie back on with some of her in-depth answers that have the spoilers. So we'll take it from there.
All right.
Keep reading.
Keep ranting.
And remember, you're so approachable. Okay, the episode is over. Get reading.
But before you go, like, review, and subscribe.
Turn on notifications to get the alert when the full episode drops.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see what we're reading next and join the conversation.
We're so excited to have you on board.